We give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Somebody got to mute your phone. Mute your phone. It's echoing. You got to do something with that. All right. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you shall receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that come from Elohim only? Now I'm going to do this here briefly, just because I mentioned it so you can see it for yourself. Zechariah chapter 8. Eight and 18. Eight and 18. Alright. And the word of Yahuwah of hosts came unto me, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th shall be to the house of Yehuda joy and gladness and cheerful feast. Therefore love the truth and shalom. And that right there too, and we didn't hit that on atonement, because people were saying atonement can't be no fast, because you can't be fasting on it because it's supposed to be a feast. But as you can clearly see right here in verse 19 that this man described 4 different fasts as a cheerful feast. You see that for yourself. You can take that as you wish. And of course, that word for feast there is just moed, which is appointed time and meeting, and had nothing to do with actually eating. And I think a lot of the individuals who said that, they know that, and they just be trying to play semantics. Verse 20, Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, it shall yet come to pass that there shall come people. It shall yet come to pass that there shall come people, and the inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, Let us go speedily to pray before Yahuwah, and to seek Yahuwah of hosts. I will go also. Now we just gonna pull it, because you should know when you see seek, you should always think that you're gonna see the word bakash, and you should already know that this is the sacrifice so you can enter into the house. Anytime you see the phrase seek Yahuwah, that should be the first thing come to your mind. Just like when you read the word way, you should think of the rock, and you should think the way to the highest that covers sins. That should instantly click in your mind when you see seek Yahuwah and way, because these things are telling you what you need to do to get to the highest. This is telling you what you need to do to get in the house. You cannot get in the house if you do not sacrifice yourself. If you do not separate yourself, you're not going to be able to do it. Sacrifice is the only thing that's going to bring forth the separation. So you need to ask yourself, if I'm seeking Yahuwah, what am I sacrificing for his name's sake? What am I sacrificing for his kingdom's sake? What am I relinquishing so I may receive everlasting life? Hello? Yeah, what's going on? What are you giving up? That's what you should think every time you see seek Yahuwah. That's what should come to your mind every single time. Every time you see the way of Kadesh, way. That's what you should be thinking about. This is the way that gets to the highest that covers sins. You need to be, and then if you put those two things together, the sacrifice is the way to the highest that gets your sins covered. If you seeking the way of Yahuwah, that's what your mind should be geared towards. Yea, many people and strong nations shall come to seek Yahuwah of hosts in Jerusalem, and to pray before Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Yahudim, saying, We will go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. So it says that the nations are going to take hold to the skirt of him that is a Yahudim, and say, we're going to go with you because we heard Elohim is with you. Now we know this first and foremost, who this man is, who they're going to take hold of his skirt. Let's just look at skirt real fast. I ain't trying to spend too much time on this particular matter though. Now when we look at this here, it's kanaf, and that's just, the extremity, the edge, or the skirt, or the corner of a garment. Now let's look at something else with these people. Let's look at Jeremiah 16 and 16. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Yahuwah, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, out of the holes of the rocks. For my eyes are upon all their ways, they are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from mine eyes. I think you need to just hear verse 17 one more time. This man say here, for my eyes are upon all their ways, and they are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. You need to know that this man says that all his eyes are upon every single solitary way that you have. And there goes that word that we mentioned, the rock. They not hid from his face, and your iniquity is not hid from his eyes. He sees them. So you need to take knowledge of that whenever you making a move. Listen what he tell you though. And first will I recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land. They have filled my inheritance with their carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. O Yahuwah, my strength and my fortress, and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. These people have not done that at this moment in time. Now, case in point, you need to take into recall that Zechariah said that the nations would come up to seek Yahuwah in Jerusalem. This is what it says. This is what it says. And then it says that these same nations who came up to seek him would take hold of the skirt of him who was a Yahudim and say, we going with you because we heard Elohim is with you. Now, it said these Gentiles done stood up and said they have inherited lies, worthless things, and things where there ain't no gain. Let's look at verse 20. Shall a man make gods unto himself, and they are no gods? Therefore, behold, I will this once cause them to know. I will cause them to know my hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Yahuwah. He said he will cause them to know his hand and his power. Now, it's taking us to something in a moment, and whether you realize it or not, it's going to take us to the next thing we're going to look at in the law, whether you know it or not. So praise the Lamb. So this man just sat back and said they're going to know his hand and his right. But he said these Gentiles said they've inherited vanity and lies. So we have to take this to contemporary times. How can a Gentile come teach me about my God? How is this possible for him to do this? How can he do this? Why would I sit down at the foot of a white man and for this white man to teach me about a God whom this text just said he don't know? He don't know him. So how you going to tell me about him? Who did you learn about him from? Did you learn about him from another Gentile? Absolutely not. We reject that deposit. We will not accept that. Let's see why. Romans chapter 3 and verse 1. And it's not saying that they can't be saved. We're just dealing with a particular matter. Because then we're going to swing to Romans 2. And then we got to look at what the order is set from the man of whom they love to speak of his words. Because everything goes to the house of Elohim first, and then the Gentiles. Which takes you back to something that the master said, and we're going to read that too. And again, this taking you back to, and this is dealing with back to the law, because at the end of the day, he didn't give this word to everybody. He gave it to a particular people to expound it to everybody. But he didn't give this word to everybody at its revealing. Understand and know the difference. That's what I was talking to the young man about earlier. When he was like, well, you are what your father is. Not understanding that when he said, okay, he said Abraham's seed. A genealogy and a nationality are two different things. Of course, the genealogy is not going to be dictated through by the woman. But you are Hebrew, whether your mama is one and your daddy is not, or your daddy is one and your mama is not. Because you have that blood in you. Therefore, you have a right to the covenant because of that. Period. You know what I'm saying? I don't see how niggas don't understand that. Now, what it could remove you from, if you are the son of a Hebrew mother, but a Gentile father, it removes you from having a right to an inheritance in the land, because if that woman had brothers, then you ain't able to get a part of that inheritance. You will be skipped. You don't have no right to nothing. You know what I'm saying? And y'all we'll look at all those things in the law as well, so you can understand all of that. Because he left ordinances and statutes and judgments for many of those things. And then you're also going to see through the going forth of looking at and examining what's in the law, that there are a lot of things that you can't do at this present time. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of things you're not going to be able to do. What advantage then have the Yahudim, or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because unto them were committed the oracles of Elohim. It said unto them. So let's get extra technical. And let's look at the word committed in Greek. It means to place confidence in, of the thing believed, to create, to have confidence, to entrust a thing to one, to be entrusted with a thing. So he's telling you right now that the Yahudim were entrusted with the word of Elohim and no other people. So how is these other people going to swing through and tell me about a word that was not even entrusted unto them? That's the key point you have to look at. Paul, right? Because they love Paul. They love him to death now. You know what I'm talking about? As far as taking this man's words and skirting it to whatever vantage point that they want to use it for. It says clearly that he says the word was trusted to the Yahudim. And this is their advantage. That is their advantage. Let's look at the Greek word for advantage. And the Greek word for advantage means over and above, exceedingly abundant, supreme, preeminence, superiority, surpassing. So when we look at that, let's go to Exodus chapter 19 and let's look at what the law says, and we'll see if that statement lines up with the law and what you read in Romans chapter 3, because I would say that it does. 19:3. I would say that it does. Exodus 19:3. And Moses went up unto Elohim, and Yahuwah called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Yasharal, You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be unto me as a kingdom of priests and a Kadesh nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Yasharal. So he said, by the keeping of this covenant, which is the giving of the word and the holding and the keeping of the word, I'm entrusting you with it, it would cause you to be superior. This is exactly what the law says. Now let's look at another matter, what's in the law. Before we look at Romans chapter 2, let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 4. We get into it a little early, but sometimes we have to cross-reference points, and we just can't stick to no rigidness of we're going to take stuff step by step, because sometimes you have to deviate. Got to be able to be fluid sometimes, a little flexible. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1, I want to say. Yes, Deuteronomy 4 and 1. We'll start right there. Listen to what he says. And then let that soak into your brain as it pertains to the law of your Elohim. Now therefore hearken, O Yasharal, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that you may live, and go and possess the land which Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers give you. You shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahuwah your Elohim which I command you. So you need to sit back and look at that. You can't add to the word. Don't take nothing away from it. You see the same thing in the end of Revelation, but that's just coming from the law. The law already told you this. Your eyes have seen what Yahuwah did because of Baal Peor. For all the men that follow Baal Peor, Yahuwah the Elohim have destroyed them from among you. And we're going to get to Baal Peor, but we don't went over it before. You seen what happened when they went to following after the idol gods and them strange women. You saw what happened. Now you want to follow after the world and they idol gods? You're going to see what Baal Peor going to happen to you. He told you saw what happened. Play with it. That's why he telling you that. Truth be told, he telling you that to say, try me. Play with me. You already know what it is. You already know what time it is. You got the right one this afternoon. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at it in that exact fashion. He telling you got the right one this afternoon. Because I'm the one for you to try. I'm the one for you to test. See, but we don't like to look at it like that because we think this man somebody to be played with. And this man ain't nobody to be played with. Nobody to be played with. But we steady play with this man. Let's look at the next thing you say. But ye that did cleave unto Yahuwah your Elohim are alive, every one of you, this day. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahuwah my Elohim commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who have an Elohim so nigh unto them, as Yahuwah your Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this Torah which I set before you this day? Obey only, take heed to thyself, and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thy eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life, but teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons. Now hold what you got. We good in Deuteronomy 4. Now let's look at something he told you in Hebrew chapter 2. Because you know he said the Gentiles said they have inherited lies and vanity. That's what he said they gonna come say. You know what I'm saying? That's what he said they gonna come and say. Remember, we look at Zechariah and said they gonna come up to Jerusalem seeking this man's face. All right. Hebrews 2:1. Which will make this statement in Hebrews 2:1. You see, it's coming from the law. It's always stuff gonna take you back. You're gonna see repeatedly. Dang, that was in the law. Oh, I didn't realize that was in the law. That was in the law too. This was in the law too. And your understanding should increase exponentially. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully y'all willing to increase to the point where you purge yourself from all matter of iniquity, that you might be kind of worthy to receive this man Ruach. Because we already know what this book say. You don't know the law, you're damned. And also, let me just put it this way. Don't get caught up on you know it and you ain't going to put it into action. Because information without being put into action is a waste of time. A total and colossal waste of time. Therefore, we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. That's what the law just told you. All he was telling you is what Yah put in the heart of Moses to tell the people. You better give a more earnest heed to the thing that you done heard, lest you slip, lest they slip, lest you forget them. The moment you forget them, you haven't retained Elohim in your knowledge. He give you over to a reprobate mind to do those things that are not convenient, and you scarred. Just that quick, because you ain't keeping that man word in your mind. Because you ain't listening to what he said. You done let him slip. That's how you go sin. Because you hear the word, and you didn't take heed to it, and now you done let it slip, and now you done went back to your vomit. That's how it happens. Every time, too. Consistently. Let's look at what earnest heed means just for in the Greek, just on general principle. When we look at the word earnest, it means to a great degree, above others, exceedingly, frequent, much more abundantly. So that means you're going to give an extra amount of attention to this particular information. And the word for heed is to bring near, to give one's heed to oneself, to give attention to apply oneself to attach oneself to hold or cleave to a person or thing. And you seen what happened, because you seen that in the law. He said, you that are alive, you the ones that cleave to Yahuwah that day, versus the ones who didn't give the more earnest heed to the things that they heard. They let them slip, and they messed around and served Baal Peor and died. Because they didn't listen. They didn't pay attention. They didn't lay it up in their heart. They didn't apply themselves to it. They didn't cleave to it. This is why people don't have no success with the word, because you're not cleaving to it. You're not holding on to it. You're not joining yourself to it. It's just something for you to do. We'll read one thing in Revelation chapter 3, and then we will move on to the next phase of what I'm talking about, because I'm not completely done with that. 3-1. I read it a while back. I'm gonna read it again. It's always relevant, always prevalent, and will always be till he get back here. And unto the Malachim of the synagogue and Sarges write, these things saith he that have the 7 ruachs of Elohim and the 7 stars. And I know thy works, that thou hast a name, that thou live and art dead. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before Elohim. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou wilt not know what hour I will come upon thee. See, that's what he told you, right? You need to hold fast to what you done received and heard and turn from it. If not, he gonna catch you with your drawers down. And that ain't what you're looking for. That ain't what you want. Now, nevertheless, we've established that the Gentiles say that they're going to come up to Yahuwah and say, surely our fathers have inherited lies. Zechariah said the same thing. Let's look in the book of Micah in the 4th chapter. And let's see how. And then it also said that they said, what is a people that make gods that are not gods? Because we know the Gentiles worship things that are made with hands. We know that's what they do. He said, but then he will cause them to know his hand and his might, that they might know the name of Yahuwah. Keep that in mind of how that's done. And then this will take us into them taking hold of the skirt of him that is a Yahudim. Micah 4:1. And you can read the same thing that Micah finna say in Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1, because I'm not reading both. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, and to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the Torah shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. So keep it right. Check it. So a smarty art nigga, I'll tell you, see, it's Yahuwah that's going to do the teaching. But let's see what the text says. Isaiah 66. Because that's talking about the kingdom right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's talking about the kingdom. That's what he's referring to. So you know we got to reference back and read that. Isaiah 66 and 18. 66 and 18. And then after that, Jeremiah 33. Just get some witnesses on that. And then Jeremiah 30. Now, I ain't telling you this stuff here for y'all to be around here talking about cut nobody doctrine and none of this stuff here. This is for you to understand. To not let nobody lie to you. We still got Romans 2 on deck too. To let nobody lie to you. Because people tell you a lot of things. I had a dude right this here, man. Brother was going through it with somebody else. I could relate to what the brother was talking about. So he thinking that I was taking a shot at him. So he was like, shoot, nigga, you want to debate? And you know, I told him straight him down. We can debate whatever you want to debate. You know what I'm saying? I don't debate though. That ain't what I do. But if that's what you want to do, you know, you can make it out on yourself. But I let him know though, that if I debate a nigga, which I think I've only done it in the formal sense like twice. Yeah, I think it was like twice. I've done it informally a few times. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what the other nigga talking about, to be quite honest. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be paying attention to what the nigga talking about. I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to preach the word. And if you believe it, you believe it. And if you don't, you don't. You know what I'm saying? It is not my job to browbeat you to believe anything. You know what I'm saying? You either going to believe it or you're not. You know what I'm saying? I'm really trying to persuade you into delivering your soul from death. That's my number one thing in persuading you in. And the reason why I say that is because Paul said, because we know the terror of the master, therefore we persuade men. We are trying to convince you that living a sinful life is not the way to go. But as far for certain elements of pinpoint or finer points or doctrines or teachings, I'm not here to persuade you, cuz. You know what I'm saying? You're either going to believe it or you're not. And I don't care if you don't, and praise Yah if you do. Matter of fact, praise Yah if you don't. It's his will all the same. I ain't going to lose no sleep over it. You can bet that. Nevertheless, Isaiah 66 and 18. For I know their works and their thoughts, and it shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues And they shall come and see my esteem. And I will, listen what he said now, I will set a sign among them. And I will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pool and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the isles afar off. These are Gentiles now, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my esteem, and they shall declare my esteem among the Gentiles. Hold on, I want y'all to listen to today. Matter of fact, praise the Lamb. I'm finna show you something extra right here, because I wasn't planning on doing it. It did hit my mind right now. I'm going to ask y'all a question. What verse 19 sound like to y'all? What verse 19 sound like to y'all? You got any idea, Buffett, what verse 19 sound like? Oh, she in the bite. What you think verse 19 sound like to you, sir? Listen. Hold on, I'm finna read it again. I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pool, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my esteem, and they shall declare my esteem among the Gentiles. Okay, you said that sound like when he come back. What you say, Stanley?
I was thinking about the Valley of Jehoshaphat.
You think about the Valley of Jehoshaphat? Anybody else want to take a crack at this?
I was thinking, when you say I'm gonna go to the people, that's not a people.
All right, now let's look and see this here, right? Mark chapter 16. So first this here, who know where Tarshish is? Who know where that's at? Let me ask you that first.
That's supposed to be like in the Mediterranean, I think.
Who know where Pool and Lud is?
That sounds like the Isles of the Gentiles.
Yeah, I mean he told you that because he said that. He said to the isles that are far off. But let's look at something, right? And maybe they'll make it a little bit clear. So you got Tarshish, right? And you know that's a city near the Red Sea. So it's kind of like we'll just mention the city of the Phoenicians of the Mediterranean Sea, maybe Cyprus or in Spain. And you got Pool.
What scripture you was reading?
That's Isaiah 66 and 18. And you got Pool, and that's a land of the Assyrians. Y'all should know where Tubal and Javan is, because those names should be what. So those of y'all that might be a little bit more studied. And Lud is a city in a little northern Africa somewhere. And of course that name means strife. Let's see what we got for Pool. I just looked at it and didn't tell y'all what it meant. And Pool means distinguishing. Tarshish is yellow jasper. And then he says he's going to go to Tubal and Javan, and to the isles afar off. They said they ain't known your name. They ain't heard his fame or nothing. They don't know nothing about him. So when we got Tubal, that's a region of Asia Minor near Cappadocia. And then you got Javan, which is Greece. Now let's look at that sign. First thing he said, he'll set a sign. So let's deal with that. Mark 16. Mark 16 and 15. I'm getting low. Well, I ain't rode too long. We had a 30-minute mark. I got to get, like I said, but I got to do it. And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the Besorah to every creature. He that believeth is immersed shall be saved, and he that believe not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So he said he will set signs among them. So we got to sit back and look at that he said a man who was working signs amongst these people in these areas who had never heard his name. Let's go to Acts chapter 28. And that taking you also back to what you read in Jeremiah. They said he going to show them his arm and his might, that they may know the name of Yahuwah, because these people ain't never known this man. Acts chapter 28. If I can get to it. Where we at?
Yeah, go ahead now.
Acts chapter 28 and about verse 4. Verse 3, actually. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat. And now they're in the city of an island called Melita. So let's actually locate where the island of Melita is before we go any further so we can see where that's at. Because that's where they are. And that's in verse 1. They're in an island called Melita. And that is an island that is in the Mediterranean. It's between Africa and Sicily being in Italy. We'll read verse 1. And when they were escaped, they knew that the island was called Melita. And barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he have escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffer not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly, but after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. In the same quarters there were possessions of the chief men of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and lodged us 3 days courteously. Now we drop down to verse 17, and now they've arrived in Rome. And well, we don't got to read verse 17, but they've arrived in Rome. Now we look at verse 21, and let's look at what this man Paul begins to do. And they said unto him, we neither received letters out of Yehuda concerning thee, neither any of the brethren that came showed or spake any harm of thee. But we desire to hear of thee what thou think, for as concerning this sect, we know that everywhere it is spoken against. And when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him into his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of Elohim, persuading them concerning Yahushua, both out of the Torah of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning till evening. And some believed the things which were spoken, and some believed not. And when they agreed not among themselves, they departed after that Paul had spoken one word. Well spoke the Ruach HaKodesh by Yeshayahu the prophet unto our fathers, saying, go unto this people and say, hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand. Seeing you shall see, and not perceive. For the heart of this people is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. Their eyes have they closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. Be it known therefore unto you, that the salvation of Elohim is sent unto the Gentiles, and that they will hear it. Now remember, the book of Isaiah is telling us plain as day that he had to set a sign among these people, and he will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pool, Lud, that draw the bow to Tubal and Javan, to the isles afar off, because they have not heard his fame, neither have they seen his esteem, that they may declare my esteem among the Gentiles. Who is his esteem? His esteem is Yahushua. You should know that from John chapter 17. As you can see, what Paul is doing is he's about to get ready to go declare the esteem of Yahuwah to a people who have never heard of him. Let's look and see an example where he says these people have never heard of this man. Let's look in Galatians chapter 4 and about verse 17, and then we'll swing to chapter 2 of that very same chapter, of the very same letter, I should say. So what we see in this instance in verse 19 of Isaiah chapter 66 is Paul being sent unto the Gentiles so the Gentiles could hear the word, that the word could be preached to them and the word that could be taught unto them. Therefore, how in the world could a Gentile come tell me about the fame and esteem of a God who he had to send people to come tell you about him, when Jeremiah the prophet has already stated that your father's going to come and say, truly we have inherited lies and vanity and things that are of no profit. Doesn't make any sense. Only makes sense when you want to justify your oppressor doing something they ain't got no business. But outside of that, and that's Ephesians chapter 4. Is it Ephesians chapter 4? Yes, it is. My apologies. It's Ephesians chapter 4 and 18. And then we swing to Galatians chapter 2. We're making verse 17. Listen to the statement where he makes. Listen what he says. This I say therefore and testify in the master that you henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk in the vanity of their mind. Hearkening you back to Jeremiah chapter 16 and the worthlessness of their mind. Why were they walking in vanity? Because their fathers had inherited lies and things that had no profit, because they had never seen the hand or the power of Yahuwah. They had never seen it. They didn't know it. Having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of Elohim through the ignorance that is in them because of the blindness of their heart. They ignorant. Ignorant means you don't know. They didn't know. He just told you that in Isaiah chapter 66. They did not hear my fame. They didn't know it. They didn't know it. Now let's look at Galatians chapter 2. The reason why we looked at that part with the sign and then showed Paul getting bit by the serpent was to show you that Paul the apostles were the sign. Hello?
Yeah.
To show you that the apostles were the sign. And that's the sign. And where did Paul, and all those lands that are mentioned in Isaiah 66, Paul hit them all. He hit them all. He traveled to all of these places and preached the word all of these places. And when we look at all these epistle letters he wrote, whether it be to Corinth or to the Galatians or to Ephesus or dang, it's escaping my mind. Or Thessalonica and all of these places, these are the isles of the Gentiles. These people had never heard of Yahuwah. They had never heard that fame. They knew nothing about it. It's funny how the protocol gonna change. He sends Israelites. He sends men of Yasharal. He sent Abarim to teach the Gentiles about it. And now the Gentiles gonna come and teach us about it? Absolutely not. Galatians chapter 2. We'll pick it up at about verse 5, I should say. They say, to whom we give place by subjection, no, not for an hour, that the truth of the Besorah might continue with you. But of those who seem to be somewhat, whatsoever they were, it make no matter to me, Elohim, except no man's person. For they who seem to be somewhat in conference added nothing to me. But contrast, when they saw the gospel of the uncircumcision, was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. For he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me towards the Gentiles. And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the favor that was given unto me, they gave to me Barnabas and the right hands of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision. Now see, a nigga can try to spin this and work this all they want to, but ain't nowhere in the world you gonna ever read nowhere in this text where Yah calls some Israelites a heathen or uncircumcised in the flesh. He said we were uncircumcised in heart, Jeremiah chapter 9. Never, and he made the reference to make it be known. He said Egypt, Ammon, and Edom are uncircumcised in the flesh, but Yasharal and Yehuda are uncircumcised in the heart. So what we see in this instance, what we see Isaiah 66 and 19 is pointing us to is the apostleship and the evangelism of Paul to these people who have never heard the name of Yahuwah, never knew his fame, never knew his esteem, and that fame, his esteem is this. Matthew 27. That's why he said they would know his hand and his might. Because they said, to whom is the arm of Yahuwah revealed? We know who the arm of the hand, the right hand of Yahuwah is. Because Hebrews 1 and 1 tell you. He told you he got to go back to the right hand of his father. He is that right hand. He is Ben Yamin, the son of his right hand. And he wants you to sit, if you overcome, for you to sit at his right hand like he sit at his father's right hand. Because he that overcometh, I will give him an inheritance, and he shall be my son, and I will be his Elohim. Simple and plain. And this is why the text say in the epistle letters that there's no Yahudim or Greek, nor bond, nor free, no male, no female in Yahushua HaMashiach. In his body, there is no difference as far as you getting salvation. But when it comes to the order and the structure of how things roll, oh yes, there is a difference. There is the way that man's not going to change up on his word. He's not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? They can say whatever they want to say. That man ain't going to break a word to appease somebody's feelings. And neither should we. Matthew chapter 27. Verse 50. Yahushua, when he cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the Ruach, and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to the bottom. The earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the Kadeshim which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the Kadesh city, and appeared unto many. And now when the centurion, because we know this is in centurion, this is a Roman, this is a Gentile, and they that were with him, watching Yahushua, saw the earthquake, and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, truly, this was the son of Elohim. Return back to Isaiah chapter 66. Now, let's look at the key point. Micah chapter 4 say the nations coming to Jerusalem to hear the word. Zechariah chapter 8 say the nations coming to Jerusalem to seek Yahuwah's face, and they going to take the hold of the skirt of him that is a Yahudim and say, we're going with you because Elohim is with you. So that means we not taking no hold of no Gentile. Ain't no Yahudim taking no hold of no Gentile say, we going with you, we heard Elohim is with you. He ain't say do that. Acts chapter 3 say you are the children of the prophets. Ain't no Gentile, no child, or no prophet for me to follow him and listen to him and teach him. Therefore you ain't been bestowed upon no word. I shall not. You know what I'm talking about? Isaiah 66:19 just told us he set a sign in these nations because these nations ain't never heard this man's fame, nor have they ever seen his esteem, and therefore the preaching or the declaration of the gospel of Yahushua HaMashiach must be confessed and professed unto them. You understand what I'm telling you? So let's keep that in mind when we see Jeremiah chapter 16 say, truly our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things that are no profit, and we have made gods that are no gods, and he got to show his power and his might that they may know the name of Yahuwah. We started off in John 5 like we started off Yah willing, and hallelujah for Yahushua every week, every time. I come in my Father's name and you receive me not. He came to declare the name of Yahuwah. That's what he came to declare. So that means he came to declare goodness, truth, long suffering, mercy, forgiveness of sins. This is what he came to proclaim. This is what he came to proclaim. Ain't no Gentile came to proclaim that. Why am I listening to that from him? You can by all means. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I'm just be honest with you. I'm going to look them in the face, and I'm going to tell them like what Nehemiah them told them people when they came to help build that wall. You have no part, no lot in this matter. You know what I'm talking about? We do not need your assistance when it comes for you to building this. Have no problem with you coming inside. But we do not need your assistance. In the matter of fact, let's just read it because I feel like it. Come on to Nehemiah chapter 4 if I'm not mistaken. It ain't going to hurt nothing. Then I got to get back to the law. We took about a 45-minute detour. It's still going to tie in all together, y'all willing, by the time we get finished. Is that Nehemiah chapter 4 I want, man? My bad. That's Nehemiah chapter 2. We pick it up by verse 14. Nehemiah 2 and 14. Shoot. Screw it. Verse 12. And I arose in the night, and I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my Elohim had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, and to the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire. And then I went on to the gate of the fountain, and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass. Then I went up in the night by the brook, and viewed the wall, and turned back, and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. And the rulers knew not whither I went, or what I did, Neither had I yet told to the Yahudim, nor to the priest, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. Then said I unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lie waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. And let us build up the walls of Jerusalem, that there be no more reproach, that we be no more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my Elohim, which was good upon me, as the king's word that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But Sanballat the Hornite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian heard it, and laughed us to scorn, and despised us, and said, What is this thing that ye do? Will you rebel against the king? Then answered I and said unto them, The Elohim and Shamahim, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build, but you have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. Now these are sinners, and you know what it is? Because I read the wrong thing, and that's my bad. That take us back to what that is. Dang, what it is? To 2 Peter chapter 3, when he talk about the scorners and the mockers, that they don't have no right to that. They don't have no right to that. Because there's a lot of people, they're not going to have a right or a memorial. You got to remember, a memorial is a remembrance. Your memorial is your name being written in Shamahim. Written in heaven, written on high. That's your memorial. He told these men, you don't have a memorial here, because they're good and wicked. But I'm trying to recall the verse that I want. And I got to find it. Because it's a specific thing, and it's right here in my head too. Because some Gentile came up asking to get in on that, and they told them boy to kick rocks. Hold on, man. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it in just a minute. Dang, I hate when that happens. I'm trying to remember where it is, and it's escaping me. Y'all willing to come up in a little bit? If not, we're going to have to roll on. Yeah, we're going to have to roll on. So when we look at this here, is that they don't have. Now remember, the wall is symbolic of Mashiach. The workers who helped build the wall, if you can recall in Nehemiah, I want to say about chapter 4, that's symbolic of the prophets and the apostles, really the apostles with Nehemiah to help build this wall. We already read it, but it's something else.
Go lay down.
That ain't what I wanted. It's something else. I can't recall what it's at. We didn't already read it though. Nevertheless, let's look at something, because we got to get back into the law part of where we actually here. Come to Romans chapter 2. Oh, my bad. We need Jeremiah 33. Well, really, we need to finish Isaiah 66. So let's finish Isaiah 66. We're in verse 19. And then we'll go to Jeremiah 33, then to Jeremiah 30, then to Romans chapter 2, and Matthew 15. And then, yeah, that'll be the end of this. I'll read verse 19 again. And I will set a sign among them. So that sign is the apostles, or Paul in this instance. And I will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pool, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Yavon, to the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my esteem. And they shall declare my esteem among the Gentiles. And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto Yahuwah out of all nations, upon horses and chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, to my Kadesh mountain Jerusalem, saith Yahuwah, as the children of Yasharal bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of Yahuwah, and I will also take of them for priest and for Levite, saith Yahuwah. So he said he gonna take of the house of Yasharal for priests. And we know the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and the people should seek the law at his mouth, for he's the messenger of Yahuwah of hosts. And nobody can go in the book and show me nowhere where Yah sent a Gentile to teach anybody at any time. Because his thing is, you can't show me they can't do it. Okay, you want to play that game? Show me they can. Show me they can. Because if you can't show me they can, you just running off at the mouth. Just keep it real. Jeremiah 33. Because then you're going to have to show me Yah sending someone to be a priest that was not of his people. When we already established in the law who he made to be priests. At this point, they basically saying that this man is going to go against his own word. And that is what he's not going to do. 33 and 19. Jeremiah. And the word of Yahuwah came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah, if you can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests my ministers. As the host of Shamahim cannot be numbered, neither shall the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David my servant and the Levites that minister unto me. So at that point, if you say that anybody can teach the word, then this man just lied. Because he said that if you can break his covenant with day and night, then he won't have any priest to serve under him. So some people are like, you don't know who a Levite is. Knowing that the Levites are just a part of that priesthood. You know you are the priesthood of Melchizedek. The priesthood of Melchizedek is chosen. That means it doesn't matter what tribe you are a part of. Levite just means to be joined. So you're going to say that those who are joined to the body, which are his apostles, no one can show me a Gentile apostle. You can show me a heathen prophet. But you don't see any of those heathen prophets serving the people of Elohim at any time. You can't show me a Gentile pastor, evangelist, or teacher. You can't show me that. The reason why you can't show me that? Because they never knew of Elohim. They never knew his word. So how could they teach it? So you're going to tell me in 2017 I'm going to sit down at John Hagee's feet, at Jim Baker's feet, men who have been schooled in the doctrine of theology and Christianity, which has nothing to do with the written text? Absolutely not. I shall not. Jeremiah 30 and 18. Actually 21. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governor shall proceed from the midst of them. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me, saith Yahuwah? And you shall be my people, and I will be your Elohim. So this man's just stated that your nobles and your governor, which is Yahusha, and that governor would take you right back to Nehemiah, because he was the governor of Jerusalem at the time, and his nobles were all of those people. And as you've seen, he engaged his heart, because he prophesied at the time of Nehemiah, to be quite honest, in a natural sense, because Nehemiah fulfilled that in a natural sense, and he referring to Yahusha and the apostles in a spiritual sense later. But either way, it wasn't no Gentiles over them participating in no work as it pertains to the bringing back of the houses of Jacob. Because I'm going to be honest with you, this is my personal opinion. I don't believe that there's too many Caucasians that would be thoroughly and heavily invested in causing people to return, the black people specifically, especially white men in America, heavily invested in causing our people to return back to our God and serve him in the way that he told us to do it. Because at that point it would cause them to be able to it would cause them to lose the control and the exertion of force of which they rule over our people at this present time. I just believe that there is a very, very small minority of white men that would even operate in that fashion. And that's just my personal opinion. That's how I see it. You know what I'm saying? I just watched a little clip of a dude talking today where he said, you know, if you ask white people, is there racism and disparities in America right now? They'll tell you no. And then he gave them an example that in 1963, and the height of Jim Crow and segregation, that when they asked white people that, 90% of them said racial discrimination did not exist. Didn't exist. In their minds, in their closed-off fantasy world, they cannot believe that you're being oppressed and castigated on a day-to-day basis. And you expect me to believe that these people will thoroughly show me how to serve my Elohim, which will cause them to actually lose power and control? I'm just not going for that. I would definitely I'm gonna have to be like Thomas. I'm gonna have to see that. I'm gonna have to see that. Because if they teach us to return back to our Elohim, that means they're putting the power that they've taken from us, putting it back to us. Meaning you took our Elohim from us, and now you're going to give it back to us, which would cause us to be empowered and shake ourselves from your shackles and your control and your worldliness and your lies. Remember, the text says for us to be delivered from the right hand of strange children, whose right hand is falsehood. Nigga got to be smoking rocks. Man, Romans chapter 2. And that ain't just for white people. That's for our nation, man. Y'all right hands are falsehood. So we can definitely serve my Elohim lock, stock, and barrel. Have no problem with that. You know what I'm saying? We can feast together. We can pray together. We can study together. We can praise together. We can do all that together. I have no problem with that. But you ain't finna teach me about him, though. That's you not finna do. Because I'm not finna sit there and entertain it. Surely I'm not, and quite frankly, I don't care who is offended by it. 2 and 8, 2 and 7, man. Romans chapter 2. Because if an individual ain't wise enough to separate the distinction of the two things that I just stated, then shame on them. So again, I will reiterate: we can praise together. We can serve together. We can eat together. We can study together. We can fellowship together. We can hang out together. Have no problem with that. This book say that all men up under Shamahim are entitled to receive the favor and salvation of everlasting life, which is granted through the personage of the death and resurrection of the only begotten Son of the living Elohim, Yahushua HaMashiach. But you ain't finna teach me about him, though. That's what you're not gonna do. You know what I'm saying? You had a good 400-year run on that. You dropped the ball. I'm good. I'm not going to roll the dice with that. You have a track record of showing me you have no earthly idea what you talking about. And I'm going to pass. Make it verse 6. Who will render to every man according to his deeds. To them who by patient continuance and well-doing seek for esteem, honor, and immortality and eternal life. But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath, tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that do evil, of the Yahudim first, and also of the Gentile. But esteem, honor, and shalom to every man that work good, to the Yahudim first, and also to the Gentile. The rewards and the condemnation come to the house of Elohim first. Better check Ezekiel chapter 9. Then it comes to the Gentile. Because ain't no respected person with Elohim, without question. But that man got a law. And in that law, he sets in order who going to administer his word. And it is what it is. That man ain't going back on that. Matthew 15 and 20. And then Exodus 21. I just had to let that be known. We went for about an hour with it. Ain't heard nothing. Hopefully you learned something. If not, I don't know what to say. Maybe we'll try again try to be better next time. (15 and 20). Actually 21. Then Yahushua went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Zidon, and behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast, and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O master, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word. And the disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cry after us. But he answered and said, I have not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Yasharal. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Master, help me. But he answered and said, It is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs. She said, Truth, master, yet the dogs eat from the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Yahushua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee as thy will. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. The reason why we read that, because that is a living example of to the Yahudim first and then to the Gentile. It's got to come to us first. For anybody get hold of anything, we got to touch it first. We got to pass on it or receive it, but it's got to come to you first. We read that in Acts chapter 3 on Wednesday. He say, unto you first was this gospel preached. It got to come to you first. You know why it got to come to you first? Because you got the word. How else? It got to come to the person who got it. I come telling you about Isaiah, Jeremiah, Jonah, Samson, David, Samuel. You going to know who these people is. You've been told about them your whole life. I come to a Gentile, go to talk about it. I don't know who that is. Who are those people? I don't know him. I don't know them people. Niggas gotta have common sense. Niggas sit back and talk about you gonna listen to a Gentile teaching the word when these people purposely made these people white. Nigga got to be smoking rocks. You know what I'm saying? Come on to Exit 21, man. I don't even know what some of these niggas be thinking about. Some of these niggas be getting high for no reason. And they take it as that you got a problem with white people when you say that. It has nothing to do because they're Caucasian. It has something to do that they deliberately misled me about my Elohim on purpose. That's the problem. Not the skin color. I could care less about that. But I ain't finna sit there and listen to nobody, no liar. Somebody who done has a track record of lying to me about my God, and I done found out they done lied to me about it, and you think I'm finna sit there and let them teach me? Are you crazy? Are you insane? Absolutely not. How you gonna come teach me about no, ain't nowhere in the world. I ain't nowhere in the world. Continuing on, man. I'm good on that. We'll leave that alone. Exodus 21:22. Ain't nowhere in the world. He said, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall surely be punished. And according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Now let's consider. When we look at the word strive, we have natsah, and that is the struggle. It's also to strip off, to make desolate, and to fall in ruins. But in this particular instance, it means to struggle. Again, that word for fruit departing is the same word that I mentioned to y'all before we started. Well, the word fruit is yeled, the same word I mentioned for y'all with pedigree and Numbers 1:18, and that's a child, offspring, youth, a boy, a son. Dang, that text message was late. Had me thinking a nigga had done been in my account. That junk was 11:30 this morning. Come on, man. Hello, Gail. That threw me off. Stop, Gail. Now, when we look at the word hurt, it is nagaf, and it is to strike, or to be stricken, or to slain, or to beat. When we look at the word mischief, calm it down, Abigail. You ain't hurt. The word is asan, and that is harm, hurt, or evil. Then it says he'll surely be punished. So let's look at something. If men struggle together. Alright. If men struggle together. What's going on, Tony? If men struggle together. And it says if these men struggle together. And if men struggle and hurt a woman with child. So we got to sit back and look at it. How are men struggling together going to hurt a woman with child? You got to think about that on the spiritual level now. That her fruit depart, or her child departs from her, but no mischief follow, they shall be punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon them. And the judge shall determine what that is. But it say, but if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life. So let's look at something when it comes to mischief. Proverbs chapter 6 and 16. These 6 things doth Yahuwah hate. Yea, 7 are abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked imaginations, and feet that be swift and running to mischief. So he say he hates people whose feet are swift or running to evil. Now we also seeing in this particular passage how it's stating that if men cause a woman's child to depart from her, but no evil follow, they'll be punished. But if any evil follow, they gotta die. Now I want y'all to think about that. Let me look at something in Deuteronomy real quick. We don't want nothing to do with that. We don't want nothing to do with that. So let's look at the next thing and see if men strove together and cause themselves to hurt a woman. John chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken. Now, on the natural level, all this is telling you, let me explain the natural part of it. If two men fighting together and in the process of them fighting with one another, it causes a woman to lose her child, or cause a woman to have a premature birth, and that child don't die, then that woman's husband will determine what manner of punishment that man will receive. You know what I'm saying? That's all that's telling you on a natural level. That's an example of something that's not necessarily pertinent in these days and times. You know what I'm saying? And whatever that woman's husband will lay upon him, he shall pay it as the judges determine that what he have to pay. Let me pull that word for determine up. So I want y'all to understand that on the natural level. That's all that's meaning. That's all that's meaning. Then they say, but if that child die though, those men got to die. Because you're going to have to give life for life. Ain't no mercy for you. Ain't no compassion for you. Ain't no grace for you. Hello?
Hello.
So, no, ain't nothing for you. Ain't nothing for you. Absolutely nothing. So you need to consider that. That's what it means on a natural level. Two men fighting cause a woman to have her child prematurely. The child don't die, the husband get to tax you. Child die, you die. But let's look at it on the spiritual level. John chapter 7. Seven and 37. And the last day, the great day of the feast, Yahushua stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believe on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. But this spake he of the Ruach, which they that believe on him should receive. For the Ruach HaKadosh was not yet given, because that Yahushua was not yet esteemed. Many of the people, therefore, when they heard this saying, said, of a truth, this is the prophet. Others said, this is the Mashiach. But some said, shall Mashiach come out of Galilee? Have not the scriptures said that Mashiach come out of the seed of David, and out of the town of Bethlehem, where David was? So there was division among the people because of him. And some of them would have taken him, but no man laid hands on him. Then came the officers to the chief priests and Pharisees, and they said unto him, why have you not brought him? The officers answered, never man spake like this man. Then answered them the Pharisees, are you also deceived? How many of the rulers or of the Pharisees believed on him? But this people who know not the law are cursed. Nicodemus saith unto them, he that came to Yahushua by night, being one of them, doth our Torah judge any man before it hear him, and know what he do? They answered and said unto him, are there also of Galilee? Search and look, for out of Galilee arise no prophet. And every man went unto his own house. So what we seeing from this here is we definitely see a struggle or contention or striving among the people. And because of you have a group of people who believe on him, you have a group of people who don't. Let's look at John chapter 8 real fast. And we'll pick it up at verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground, and when they heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahushua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Yahushua had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, woman, where are thine accusers? Have no man condemned thee? She said, no man, master. And Yahushua said unto her, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Then spake Yahushua again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that follow me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. The Pharisees therefore said unto him, thou bear record of thyself, and thy record is not true. Yahushua answered and said unto him, though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. For I know whence I came and whither I go, but you cannot tell whence I come and whither I go. So again, what we got to get into is we got to see another struggle. Another struggle. Not just with between them, the Pharisees and the master, but amongst all the people as well. Verse 20. Make it 19. Then said they unto him, Where is thy father? Yahushua answered, You neither know me nor my father. For if you had known me, you should have known my father also. These words spake Yahushua in the treasury as he taught in the temple. No man laid hands on him, for his hour was not yet come. Now nobody laid no hands on him. Again, he continues on, and there's contention through. We know when you get to verse 30, he gonna say he spoke these words, and many believed on him. And then he began to speak to those Yahudim that believed on him. Then, of course, to the conclusion of this chapter, he told them before Abraham was, I am. And those that had a problem with him began to seek to kill him again. But there was a good, strong striving and contention amongst those who believed on Yahushua and those who did not. I seen some brothers calling themselves castigating Yahushua the other day, saying, he said he didn't come to bake peace. He came to set people at variance. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny to me because these niggas supposed to know the Tanakh and the Torah so well, and not knowing when he said that he was setting mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, that he was quoting Micah. You know what I'm saying? He was quoting the book. How stupid are you? And that's not even a hard script to catch that he's quoting, because it's pretty plain. You know what I'm saying? But what Yahushua gonna come do is gonna come a division. And I seen brothers saying, don't call me Messianic, or don't call me non-Messianic. They don't want these labels, but there's a struggle going on. Just like there was a struggle going on then. But the struggle between these people caused a woman to lose her fruit or her child before the time. Let's see how. John chapter 16. Let's look at a statement the master makes before we proceed. 16 to 20. And we're going to sit back and look at, if there's no mischief, then you just got to pay the price that the woman's husband determines. But if there was some mischief, you got to die. You got to die. Make it 16 and 19. Now Yahushua knew that they were desirous to ask him, and he said unto them, Do you inquire among yourselves of that I said, a little while, and you shall not see me? And again a little while, you shall see me? Truly, truly, I say unto you, that ye shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice, and you shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned into joy. A woman, when she is in travail, have sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remember no more the anguish for the joy that a man is born into the world. And you now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man take from you. And in that day you shall ask me nothing, and truly, truly, I say unto you, whatsoever you shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it you. Now he just sat back and compared himself to a woman giving birth. Now we know what was the struggle or the contention between men to cause him to do this here, because they got with Judas. We kind of talked about that the other day. They got down with Judas. They go snatch the man up and they hang him up on the tree. And when they hung him up there on the tree, what did they do to him? Does anybody know what they did to him that would cause his fruit to depart from him before it was time? Does anybody have any idea what they did to him to cause that to happen? Don't everybody answer at once now. When they hit him in the side. Because it's going to end up causing his offspring to fall out. Let's look and see how that was able to be done in 1 John chapter 5. See, now what we end up doing with this here is rounding into in time past when we talked about how he was male and female at the same time, and how he gave birth, and all that old fancy stuff that some people like to look at that as, or it's like that dude told us going under the earth. But it's not going under the earth. It's causing you an understanding of the Torah and the mercy and power of Elohim, truth be told. But we see this again, right? Men strove and hurt a woman with child. Because you got to realize Yahushua was with child. Because he had to struggle to bring forth. Because remember what Isaiah 66 and 9 says, shall they bring forth the birth at once? He has to bring forth children. The children of Elohim. I'm going to ask y'all a question. Who died in childbirth? Who know who died in childbirth in this book? Does anybody know the name of the woman who died giving birth? Or any woman for that matter. Y'all don't know who died giving birth?
Yes, Rachel.
Rachel did. And do anybody know what child she gave birth to in her demise? Benjamin. And you know Benjamin takes us back to what we discussed earlier when it says that they had not never seen his hand or his might. No, this is the son of his right hand. She died bringing forth the son of his right hand. Now you looking at Yahusha is the son of the right hand, but he's going to die to bring forth sons of his right hand. Because these people did this stuff, they strove and they fought with him, and it caused this woman to give birth a little prematurely. Not prematurely in the literal sense, but you get what I'm talking about. It caused her fruit to depart. Let's look at 1 John chapter 5. Caused her offspring to depart because he had to drop out the blood and water. And you can't be born again but by water in the Ruach. And we finna read this in this particular thing. So what we're going to actually ascertain from both of these, right? If no evil follows, meaning you don't sin afterwards, then the judgment just get laid on your little affliction. But if evil follows after this woman has dropped her fruit, you got to die. Meaning, if you sin, you got to die, pretty much. 1 John 5 and 4. For whatsoever is born of Elohim overcome the world, and this is the victory that overcome the world, even our faith. Who is he that overcome the world, but he that believed that Yahushua is the son of Elohim? This is he that came by water and blood, even Yahushua HaMashiach, not by water only, but by water and blood. And it is the Ruach that bear witness, because the Ruach is truth. For there are three that bear record in Shamahim, the Father, the Word, and the Ruach HaKodesh, and these three are one. And there are three that bear witness in the earth, the Ruach and the water and the blood, and these three agree in one. Because remember, we read it already in Matthew 27 that when he resurrected, people resurrected with him. When they caused this man to fruit to depart and mischief followed, and their regard because of their lack of repentance, they have to die. But now it says that he will determine that he will be punished according to what the judge will determine. We can look at that in the instance of this here, right? Because we do know that Paul did kill people who believed in Yahushua, delivered them up to be persecuted, to be killed, to be jailed. And another place in the book of Acts, it says a man came to Paul and said, the Ruach HaKodesh bear witness that chains will abide upon you. And this is what the judge had determined, and this is what Yahuwah had determined would fall upon him. Because remember what it stated with Paul, he said he did it out of ignorance. He didn't know. Again, that goes back to what we were talking about in Acts chapter 3 the other day, where Peter said, I walked, you did it in ignorance. See, if any one of y'all done did something, I hope you didn't know what you were doing. Because you get a pass for that. To a certain extent. Meaning there's forgiveness for you. That's your pass when I mean, so there's a pass for that. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot more difficult if you know what you're doing. We'll read 1 John 2 and 1 just from general principle. It's a lot different when you know what you're doing. Say, my little children, these things write I unto you, that ye sin not. If any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahushua HaMashiach the righteous, and he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. And that's what the point where I read that is that y'all willing, if you do sin and you knew what you were doing, that this man advocate on your behalf, meaning that he speak on your behalf, that this man have mercy on you. Because you know he can have mercy on who he want to have mercy on, and he can have compassion on who he want to have compassion on. You know what I'm saying? The key point that I will say, according to Ezekiel 33 and according to Ezekiel 18, with get niggas not to be able to be forgiven, and you were doing right and you did wrong, is if you trust in your righteousness that you can go do wrong. He said you're gonna die in the sin what you committed. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you gotta understand that it's a free gift. It's not of yourself. And and if you would understand that, then you would put your trust in Mashiach, and maybe, just maybe, he can advocate on your behalf. Now, getting back to the point where we were at, the mischief that followed and the feet that was swift to run into mischief, because these men wanted to strive and fight because they were so swift to run to go do evil. It's what caused this fruit to depart. But he said, but if mischief follows, if it follows, he got to give you eye for an eye. Let's go back to Exodus 21. I want you to sit back. Matter of fact, before we look at Exodus 21, let's look at what the Master said in Matthew chapter 5. You know, something that hit my head. This is a side note. Funniest thing I've probably seen the whole day. A nigga said that he wanted to go get a haircut, but he couldn't get a haircut because the Ruach would not lead him into the barbershop. And I said, nigga, is you serious? You gonna blame Yah for you not going to get a haircut? So you gonna tell me the spirit of Yah stopped you from going into the barbershop? I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. You know what I'm saying? A nigga really said, let the Ruach lead and all things. So you mean to tell me the Ruach led you, don't go in the barbershop? He said, I've been really needing a haircut too, man. The Ruach just want me. I said, boy, this nigga here crazy, man. Nigga was dead serious too. Dead serious. That was the sad part about it. He was dead serious. Now I gotta remember where I was going. Oh yeah, Matthew chapter 5. I want to say probably about verse 30. That tripped me out. I just felt like sharing that. That was crazy. And then they said the Ruach would not let him go in the barbershop. I guess he's saying y'all say he can't get no haircut. Well, he nigga gonna learn to stop lying on that man. Where is it there? There we go. Now, we definitely don't want 5 and 30. We'll start at 33 though. Again, you have heard that it have been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto Yahuwah thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by Shamahim, for it is Elohim's throne, nor by the Arats, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou cannot make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever more than these come of evil. You have heard that it have been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the Torah, which we're gonna be looking at that about suing somebody about the Torah, because little did you know we did bring, for lack of a better term, lawsuits against each other. And take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. Give to him that ask thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. Now, we read this part here, and I want y'all to sit back and understand that here, right? If somebody asks to borrow something from you, that's in the word specifically, but even outside the word, and you have it, go ahead and give it to him. You know what I'm saying? That means if you have it to spare, go ahead and shoot it to him, knowing that if you don't get it back naturally, you'll get it back at the resurrection of the just. You know what I'm saying? That's how you have to look at these certain statements. That's why Yahusha making some of these statements, and Most High willing, as we get deeper and deeper in the law, you're going to see why he made these statements, because these statements are in the law. You know what I'm saying? He tell you the poor will be with you always. You know what I'm talking about? So just keep that in mind. Also, if you do something for somebody, you know what I'm saying? That's why I say if somebody asking you and you got it, say give it to him. Because you got to remember who gave it to you. And if he gave you that, he can give you twice as much as what you lent. You know what I'm saying? Know who you serve, understand who you serve, and know that he rewards faithful obedience. Nevertheless, he said, you know, it said in the old time, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Let's go back to Exodus 21 and let's see the first instance of where that statement is made. Because it said, if that mischief follows after this woman fruit has departed. We in verse 23. It says, if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. So for all intents and purposes, whatever you thought to do to somebody else, that had to be done unto you. So if that child dies, if that boy dies, then you gotta die. Now, we talked about that last week when we were talking about smiting a man till he died and blaspheming the name of Yahuwah, because you would be wounding him. You will be piercing him. You will be boring through him. Now you've caused this woman, because we know Yahushua is Adam and Eve. He's male and female at the same time, because male and female created he them and called them Adam. That's Genesis 5 and 1. We know with him being pierced in the side, that is representative of that. We know the blood and the water coming out of his side is representative of his fruit coming out. And mischief followed because he died. But he died in order to bring forth life. So now if you know that he died, that takes us back to what we read Wednesday, which was why we're not going to read it again. He said, if you sin willfully after receiving the knowledge of the truth, then you have trodden under the foot the son of Elohim. Which means you have wounded him, you have pierced him, and now you must give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And let's see how. Revelation 1 and 7. Because we kind of talked about that Wednesday. If it wasn't, it was last week, last Shabbat. My apologies. Whoever killed man, by man he must be killed. Now he's sitting here telling you to not do this to one another. There's a reason for why we don't sit back and look at this. Because what did the master say when he was on the earth? I did not come to condemn, but to save. I didn't come to judge, but to save. This is why he gave you the instruction of not rewarding evil for evil. Plus, y'all remember when we dealt with the Proverbs 25 and 21. If your enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat. And if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing so, you keep coals of fire upon his head. Vengeance belonged unto Yahuwah. That's what the words, that's what the law say. See, we were going buck wild with it. Because we weren't showing no mercy and compassion unto any man. Saul sought to do all manner of evil to David. And the things that Saul sought to do to David, according to the law, David would have been justified to render those same things back to Saul. But he chose to have mercy and compassion on him instead. See, we have to learn how to be able to put our natural inclinations, meaning i.e. our flesh, our carnal man, our carnal mind to the side and allow the spirit to guide and lead, which means to allow the word to dictate your actions, to show the mercy, compassion, justice, and goodness of Elohim to men even when they don't deserve it. Even when they don't deserve that. Because you heaping coal, you making sure their damnation will be sure in doing so. And in doing so, your Elohim is esteemed in front of all men. And again, that's what you need to be realizing is it's not about you. It is not about you. He didn't say that I'll make your name known. He said he'll make my name known. The name of Yahuwah. He said they'll know my esteem, the esteem of Yahuwah. My might, the might of Yahuwah. That's what your mind need to be concerned with. He said this law is for your understanding in the sight of the nations, that they may know that this people got an Elohim so near to them. This is what these people need to know and understand. You need to shine as a light amongst a crooked and perverse nation. That's your objective. That the name of Yahuwah Ba'ashem Yahusha is esteemed every time you are seen, especially in the eyesight of sinful men. Especially in the eyesight of sinful men. Especially in the eyesight of hypocrites. You know what I'm saying? Especially shut their mouths with your just conduct. I don't get me wrong, 'cause I know it's hard. I know some people it's hard to deal with. Some people you want to slap them upside the head. I don't tell you no lie. I told you that the other day. Another time, another place. That police officer that pulled me over during Tabernacle, I'd have cussed him out. You know what I'm saying? And been ready to fight just because I was offended. You know what I'm saying? With his whole demeanor and attitude and all. I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you're just a supreme douche. No, I don't think you have anything. No one likes you. And I don't like you right now. And if I could, I would punch you in your face. You know what I'm talking about? But you know, you can't do that. You can't do that. Because you serve Elohim, you can't react in that fashion. And that takes you back to, in the book say, bringing your thoughts into captivity. Because sometimes you're going to have thought pop in your brain. You want to bust somebody upside their head. And 9 times out of 10 is because they just being stupid for no reason. I know for some of y'all, it doesn't grind my gears as much, except for maybe the level of hypocrisy. But I know some of y'all get highly agitated when you see people pump faking with the name of Yahuwah. False claiming and flagging and junk make your blood boil. Do you know what I'm saying? And I understand. It used to make mine do too. After a while, you just get past it and understand. They're just walking in the lot that y'all gave them. Let them walk in it. You know what I'm saying? Let them walk in it. Just make sure that when that man see you, he see you in peace. That's all you need to be concerned with. Make sure that your children, they know they Elohim. And I ain't talking about just no phrases. Just to be able to say hallelujah or just to say Yah or say Yahusha. Make sure they know they Elohim. Because saying words and knowing names is not knowing your Elohim. Make sure they know they Elohim. And he is never too young to teach them to him. If you sit him in front of the TV to learn from this natural stuff, then you better sit him down and teach him about their God. It ain't no difference to me as far as I'm concerned. Don't sit that nigga in front of Elmo and you won't sit down in front of him and tell him about Yah. That's insane. That makes no sense. And we going to get to it eventually what the law say. And I'm talking about the men, not the women. That's your job to teach it to them. On your own time. You know, you bring him in front of you bring him at the convocations for them to hear the word, but you still supposed to do some reading to them on your own time. And when I say on your own time, he say tell him about what he did for us in Passover. You know what I'm saying? Tell him about it. Tell him about it. You know what I'm saying? That's what he wants you to do. Tell him about it. If you feel like, man, I can't go through them scripts like that, well, just don't go through them like that. Just tell him about it. We can take care of the technical stuff later. Tell him about it, though. Don't refrain from telling him about Passover. Don't refrain from telling them about Pentecost. Don't refrain about telling them about this man's death and resurrection. Don't refrain from telling them about David. Go ahead and tell them about Samson. Shoot, just tell them the story. Tell them about Abraham. Tell them about Isaac. Tell them about Jacob. Tell them about them. They need to be familiar with them just like they're familiar with Dora. Or just like they're familiar with whoever they be looking at. Because that's the only one of those characters that I know by name. You know what I'm saying? Besides Elmo and Barney. Tell them about them. Our children should not know anything about fictional characters more than they know about their God. That is unacceptable. That's how them heathens got us in the cobra clutch like they got us in now. Because we don't take that time out to tell them about it. Tell them about it. Tell them about it. Where was I going? I do not remember. Nevertheless, Philippians 2 and 14. I can't remember where I was going. Make it 2 and 12.
Was it Revelation 1?
Oh yeah, appreciate it. Revelation 1 and 7. Make it 1 and 4. And Yakanan to the 7 synagogues which are in Asia, favor be unto you, and Shalom, from which is, and which was, and which is to come, from the 7 Ruachs which are before his throne, and from Yahushua HaMashiach, who is the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our own sins in his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto Elohim and his Father. To him be esteem and dominion forever, ever. Amen. Behold, he come with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all the kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, I am the Aleph and the Tah, the beginning and the ending, saith the Master, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty. So he said, when they see him whom they pierced, they're going to wail, because these people have struggled and called him to bring forth the fruit, and mischief followed. So now life got to be given for life, and wound got to be given for wound, and stripe got to be given for stripe, and burning got to be given for burning. Think about this, of what the Torah say now. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. I'm going to ask y'all a question. Why did it say hand for hand? Why would it say you got to give a hand for a hand? Why do y'all think it say that? Don't everybody answer at one time now. Don't rush down to the floor. Why do you think it say hand for hand? No one? Well, let's see. John chapter 20, verse 25. Remember, what you thought to do unto somebody else, let that be done unto you. It all gonna come back around. This man's word is right and exact, true all the way through, and he gonna do exactly what he said he was gonna do. Exactly how he said he was gonna do it. John 20 and 24. We'll knock out hand for hand, foot for foot, and wound for wound right here. We'll knock 3 of them out one time. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Yahushua came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Master. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger in the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. And after 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Yahushua, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, Shalom be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it in my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Master and my Elohim. Yahushua saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Baruch are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Now, we didn't get the feet part. My apologies right there. That's in Luke 24:35, when he showed them his hands and his feet. So because you took this man and you pierced his hands and his feet, you're going to have to give your hands and your feet up too. Because you wounded him, he got to wound you. Remember, the book say, by his stripes we are healed. So because you beat him, he going to beat you. Well, what is that burning? Well, you took him through the furnace of affliction, so therefore let's see how he going to burn you. 2 Peter chapter 3. So you have to sit back and look at this. This is what sin is going to get you. Because he say 2 men that struggle. Remember, the carnal mind is enmity with the spiritual mind. It's not subject to the law of Torah, neither indeed can. I'm sorry. Say the carnal mind is not subject to the law of Elohim. It's enmity between it. It's not subject to it, neither indeed can be. And that the Ruach lust against the flesh, that you can't do the things that you should. Meaning there is a struggle. Now you sitting back and you facing this struggle, and you doing the things that you ought not do, and the things that you should do, you don't do. And it's going to cost you your life if you do not allow the word of Elohim to overcome and win that struggle. So are we around here professing that we the sons and daughters of Elohim for vain? Or are we looking at, just like what we read earlier, say the Gentiles will come and say that truly our Father having inherited lies and vanity and things that don't profit? Or are you going to sit back and look at what we see in Isaiah 66 and 19? That he sat back and he set a sign and he sent somebody to make sure that the Gentile knew his name. And that they would hear of his fame. This is one of the reasons why Paul does say, I'm gone. Since you hard-headed niggas don't want to listen to it, maybe I'll go around here and find somebody who will. Because every time you reject this man, either through his testimony or through your behavior, you have wounded his hands and feet all over again. Remember, we talked about that last week. You've wounded him. You've beaten him all over again. Eye for an eye. You got to remember, they plucked out Samson's eyes. So they put a blindfold on Mashiach like to take out his eyes. Just like they plucked out Zechariah's eyes. So because you turned your eyes to righteousness, I got to take them from you. What you do to another has to be done unto you. Now we need to sit back and consider that every time we make a decision that could cause us to get outside the will of Elohim. This man said you were well because you pierced him. Because your behavior was just as if you took that spear and stuck it in there yourself. Your behavior is just like you put him up there on the tree and nailed the nail in his hands and feet yourself. Your behavior as if you took the the bull whip and beat him yourself. This is how your mind needs to be trained to see this. How could you do this to somebody who loves you, whom you say you love? How could you do that to him? You say you love this man, but you ain't got no problem stabbing him in his hands and in his feet. You ain't got no problem beating on him. You ain't got no problem setting him on fire. You ain't got no problem with that. But you love him though. You ain't got no problem with that. Because that is what you're doing. Do not try to divorce yourself away from that situation. Because he said, oh, if we were in the time of our fathers, we wouldn't have killed him. He said, you bear witness that you are the children of those who killed the prophets. So don't sit back talking about, I wouldn't kill Yahushua. I wouldn't have been out there crucifying. Yet you sinned. So you would have been out there with him. You would have been out there with him. You would have been out there with him. That's how you need to look at it. When the thought of sin run across your mind to commit it, visualize yourself standing out there talking about crucify him, crucify him. Because that's you at that particular point in time. That's you. You that Roman who took that spear and speared it in his side to make sure he was dead. That's you. You was the one slapping and talking about prophesy Mashiach. That's you. And if you can see that in your brain, if you can picture that, I guarantee you, if you're able to go sin after that, you're just a wicked bastard. You're just a wicked bastard at that point. Clearly, you ought to go to hell on an express train. Because you have no conscience. The word of Elohim surely does not resonate in your heart. Let's take a Peter 3 and 3. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of Elohim, the Shamahim were of old, and their rats standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world then, that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. But Shamahim and the rats which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. Because remember, he said, are you able to be immersed with the immersion that I'm immersed with? He said, there's a Luke 12 and 49. 12 and 49. And he quoting something from the law in this, and we done touched on it before, and we'll reference it just for anybody who's not familiar. This is Luke 12 and 49. This is Yahushua talking. Listen what it says. I am come to send fire on the earth, and what will I, if it be already kindled? But I have an immersion to be immersed with, and how am I straitened till it be accomplished? Suppose ye that I come to give shalom on earth? I tell you, nay, but rather division. From henceforth there shall be 5 in one house, divided 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against the father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother, the mother-in-law against the daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. See, you got to make a separation. I had a nigga tell me last night, you're a tear, and Mashiach is going to separate you. Okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what you want me to do? I'm not finna argue with you about it. I could care less. But He said that there's a fire, that he came to bring fire on the earth, and it was already kindled. Let's see how it was kindled. Deuteronomy 32. Mm-hmm. 32 and 20. And he said, I will hide my face from them, and I will see what their end shall be. Back it up to about 17. And this is another thing that go on about him turning you reprobate or giving you over to your desires. Why you should be careful with that, and how that is such a scary proposition. They sacrificed unto devils, not to Elohim, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, who your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten Elohim that formed thee. And when Yahuwah saw it, he abhorred them, because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them, and I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. So notice, he turned his face from people who are rebelliously contrary and who had no faith. He said he had to turn his face from them. And that's something to sit back and consider, because these are people who y'all will reject. Now we're going to pull the Hebrew word up for froward real quick. And that word is tapuka. That's someone who is a perverse thing. Perversity. Or also a fraud. A fake. A phony. A hypocrite, if you will. Someone who professes to know Elohim, but in works they deny him. Remember, he sat back and told you that if you believe that gain is godliness, that you have a corrupt and perverse mind. And he said he gonna turn your face from you, let you see what your end gonna be. Think about that type of stuff. Weigh certain stuff in your brain and consider it, and really get to know your Elohim and who he is about and what he stands for. So look at the next thing that he says here in verse 21. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not Elohim. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. And I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in my anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. And I will heap mischiefs upon them, and I will spend my arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger, and devoured with burning heat and bitter destruction. And I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. Now notice he said back, he said he's gonna burn them. Say they'll be burnt with hunger. Let's look at that where we see what burnt with hunger real quick. I hate when I jump through that, man. The word burnt should just be is mazeh, and it literally just means something that is sucked out or exhausted. That you will be exhausted with hunger. You'll be tired. Now also the word hunger is ra'av, and it's famine, or in the figurative sense, hungry for the word. So he say burning for burning. Burning for burning. So we could look at this in numerous different ways when he say burning for burning. Now we know the master had began to be tired, and he gave up the ruach. Say, Father, in thy hands I commend my ruach. And he gave it up. Because he had became exhausted at that point where he perished. So then at this point, he has to cause you to be exhausted. To cause you to perish. Because you tried to burn him with hunger. So he got to burn you with hunger by making you devoid of the word. Which takes us back to there'll be a famine in the land. Which takes us back to some people who are hungry for the word are not being filled with it. Because remember, he said, those who thirst and hunger after righteousness shall be filled. He said, I'm Yahuwah your Elohim, open your mouth wide and I shall fill it. which takes us back to ever learning, never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. You got some people that'll never be able to come to it because they have to be burned for burning. Because you did this to him, this got to be done to you. So this needs to all us, every last one of us, myself included, nobody's exempt. Every last one of us need to always sit back and consider our behavior, and that our behavior is manifested of what we actually would have been doing to Yahushua if we were there present in his time when he was here in the flesh. You should have seen that last week with the things that we looked at. We're not pulling this stuff out to say, ooh, here goes Yahushua. That's not the purpose of it. It's the purpose of it is for us to consider our ways. The purpose of it is for us to consider our ways. To consider that you do not want to be guilty of the blood and body of this man, because he will require your blood and your body in return. It's what he's going to require. He's going to require your blood and body in return. Come on back to Exodus 21. That's the point that we want you to be able to consider and understand. He going to want blood and a body in return. Because every sin that we can commit is us being guilty of killing his son. And how any would y'all feel if someone killed your son? You would want vengeance. You would want to return that on his head. And with that being said, since I said that, go to Romans 13. Romans 12, actually. Twelve and 11. I'll make it 12 and 9. We're gonna read a lot and work our way down. Finna get ready to wrap it on up, so y'all slide out of here anyway. Let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil and cleave to that which is good. Remember, we looked at that earlier in Deuteronomy 4. Those who cleaved under Baal Peor died. Those that cleaved under Yahuwah lived. Don't let your love be with no partiality. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. Not slothful in business. Anything that pertains to Yahuwah, you ain't got no business being lazy in it. None whatsoever. Remember what he told you in Luke. Know you not that I must be about my Father's business? Anything that pertains to the word is your business. It's your occupation. It's your service to Elohim. And you ain't got no business being lazy with it. Especially if you ain't lazy what you do naturally. That's just outright disrespectful. Outright disrespectful that you got more passion and more urgency and more energy to serve a man than to serve your Elohim. That is disgraceful. That is disgraceful. Not slothful in business, fervent in ruach, serving the master, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, distributing to the necessity of the Kadeshim, given to hospitality. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one towards another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate, and be not wise in your own conceits. When he tell you to condescend to men of low estate, to humble yourself, to be a servant, for lack of a better term. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. You ain't got no business paying no man back evil for evil. That's what we used to do. Eye for eye, tooth for a tooth. He did evil to you, you did evil back unto him. Don't do that no more. Show forth the mercy of Elohim, because he did not recompense you evil for evil. Every sin you ever committed, he didn't recompense in your bosom evil for that evil. So therefore show that same compassion and mercy to another person, which takes us back to what we read in John when he said, he without sin cast the first stone. Show mercy and compassion one to another. If it be possible, as much lie in you, live peaceably with all men. Now I'm going to be honest with you. Some people, it is very difficult for you to live peaceably with them. That's why he said, all of you that lie, is that lie possible. I ain't talking about somebody got on your nerve for a moment. I ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some people you cannot live peaceably with. Some people are just very, very difficult to get along with. And if it get to that case, you might need to just, take a step back and breathe. Because we don't need no violence. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith Yahuwah. Therefore, if thy enemy hunger, feed him. And if he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And you have to realize that's what Yahusha did. That's why we read that verse about who is he that overcome the world, but he that believe that Yahusha is the son of Elohim. These people strove together and caused him to bring forth his fruit before the time. They tried to overcome him with evil, but he ended up overcoming them with good, that good being the faith that he had in his Elohim, knowing that he would not suffer his Kadesh one to see corruption. So therefore, for each one of us looking at that example and following it, the way for us to overcome evil is to do it with good, and knowing that the attribute and the proclaiming of the name of Yahuwah is that he is abundance in goodness and in truth. So again, it's going back to showing that it's not about you, because your flesh wants to tell you to react in a particular fashion. Avenge yourself. Ain't nobody gonna do me like this, that, there, and the third. And if you feel like that, it's understandable, but it's not reacting off the emotion. It's not reacting off of the impulse of the flesh, because that thought or that impulse comes. You rein those things in, and you bring your flesh into subjection to the obedience of the word, because you you delight after the Torah of Elohim in the inward man. Therefore, this begins to direct your behavior, because you allow the word to come up, which goes back to what we were talking about a while ago, last week to be specific. That you be filled with all spiritual wisdom and understanding, and the knowledge of the will of Elohim, which surpasses all shalom. And that's the point of us pulling out Mashiach, period, is for you to be filled with all spiritual wisdom and understanding. Because once you have the insight, that means that this man is dwelling in you and you dwelling in him. And when you have the wisdom, you have the skill to fight your flesh, to fight the world. Just as Paul put it, I fought the good fight. You know how to war, because you put on the helmet, you put on the armor, you carry the sword. You know how to war, because remember, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but spiritual. That's what you got to understand. Not sitting back looking at it's a spirit on him. What kind of spirit he got on him? Knowing that the spirit that you fighting 99.9% of the time is your own. Your own thoughts, the spirit of your own mind, the thoughts in your own mind, the words in your own mind is what you fighting. Whether it be disbelief, whether it be sadness, whether it be being discouraged, whether it be frustration, whether it be anger, whether it be lust, whether it be simple mind, whatever it is, that's what you fighting. You got to combat it with the word. Because only, like I told y'all last week, a man can't do nothing but give you encouragement and exhortation. True indeed, a man can come through and speak a good word in due season, that can surely warm a man's heart and uplift his spirits. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the word of Yahuwah that do it, that man will be bringing unto you. So again, the esteem and honor is going to go back to whom it belongs and whom it is required, and that's Yahuwah Elohim, as who it should go back to. So that's what we got to look at. That's what we got to understand. You fighting the thoughts in your mind, because your flesh is trying to take you outside of where you're supposed to be going. Which takes us back to men struggling. Flesh and Ruach struggling. It's causing you to cause the fruit to depart. Is mischief going to follow? Because if no mischief follow, then you know you just got to pay a little retribution. Got to take a little chastisement, a little discipline, a little correction. If mischief follow, you got to die. So we got to consider our ways. We got to consider our ways. Are we thoroughly considering our ways and what we doing? Or we just want to recite scriptures to people, epistle letters to people? Do you just want to tell people you're an Israelite? Do you just want to tell people Yah's name and Yahusha's name? Or are you considering your ways? Are you considering your heart? Are you considering being born again? Are you considering taking on the nature of Elohim? You know what I'm saying? I just was talking to DC about this the other day. If you sit back and you look at a person, are you gonna look at the outward appearance that they possess, but they don't serve Yah, or will you go with somebody who is not as aesthetically appealing to the eye, but they serve Yah? Which you gonna choose? Because the one you choose show what type of heart you got. Because it ain't even about the person you choosing. It's almost akin to I'll choose an idol God over Elohim. I will separate myself from my Elohim because I desire the things of this life. I desire the things of this world. I trust in vanity and things that don't profit. I love lies. And he that forsake his own, he that follow after vanity forsake his own mercy. That's what the text says. But let's finish some of these things in Exodus 21 that are of a simple nature. And we in verse 26. So we can kind of dang, I ain't gonna be able to do it like that. Nevertheless, it says, if a man smite the eye of his servant, or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. If he smite out his manservant's tooth, or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. You know, if these Gentiles actually followed the law, they would have had to let all us go free. Y'all do realize that, right? Because if you made a man lose his eye, you had to let that man go. That man said if you made a man lose his tooth, you had to let that man go. Verse 28. If an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and his flesh shall be not eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. Now remember, quit means to be innocent. So if that animal kills a woman, kills a man, you got to kill the animal. You can't eat him. And then the owner is free. But listen what it said. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it had been testified to his owner, and he have not kept him in, but that he killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner also shall be put to death. So what is he telling you? If you knew your ox did that before, that he was known to be push his horn in time past, let's pull it up like I said, push his horn. That word is nagak, and that is addicted to goring or apt to gore, or he was vicious. So you knew that he was apt to do it, and somebody told you this, and you didn't keep him reined in, and he killed somebody, the ox died and you died. Because nigga, you knew, and you did not take the steps to make sure that didn't happen. This is so you know that y'all don't play. You knew it, you didn't take the steps to prevent it, you gotta die. You got to die. And you know what that take us back to? Just on a natural level, spiritual level. If you know that you won't, this take us back to being rebuked time and time again and not listening. If you know you got certain desires and you apt to do it, and somebody done told you and you didn't keep that reined in, you know you're going to hell for not listening. Because you had been told. And you didn't restrain yourself by taking heed to wise counsel of the word. Consider your ways, because that's what that's telling you. This is what happens when you don't listen. Verse 30. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for a ransom, for the ransom of his life, whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. So he said, if some money is laid on it, then he say, you know what? He can pay that ransom for his life, whatever was laid on it. Verse 32. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. So if the ox take out somebody's servant, you got to pay for it, and the ox got to die. We'll come back and do the spiritual stuff later. We don't run through it though, because this is spiritual stuff with this. If a man shall open a pit, say what?
In verse 30, what is he talking about? An ox? Like an ox?
A real ox.
You mean like
a real ox?
If they laid on him a sum of money, they talking about the ox or the person?
The person. Yeah, the person. In verse 32? 33. If a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. So again, you want to open you a pit, dig you a pit, you don't want to cover it up, somebody animal fall in there, you got to give them people money to replace that beast, and you keep the dead beast. I feel like that's an even swap, no swindle. And if one man's ox hurts another, that he die, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also shall they divide. Or if it be known that the ox have used to push in times past, and his owner have not kept him in, he shall purely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. Ain't gonna split no cash on that, cause you knew. Really, say if one man's ox hurts another, meaning one ox go hurt another ox, not a person here. This is why the man don't die. Say you're gonna sell the live ox, and you're gonna divide the money, and they're gonna divide the dead ox. I mean, you're gonna take the dead ox, you're gonna take some meat for you, I'm gonna take some meat for me, and you know what I'm saying? And we're gonna chew on that, and we're gonna split the money for the one that killed my ox. But he said, but if you knew it, you're gonna keep that dead ox, and you're going to pay for that other ox, and you're going to reimburse that man what he lost. Now, see, you can't even argue with stuff like that. That's the proper way to do things. But you know our people had to subvert all of these things because we were greedy. But we'll come back to this stuff here, y'all willing, on tomorrow and go a little deeper. Because I ain't want to go off on it because we'd have been going for another 30, 45 minutes. But hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. Did y'all understand all of this, anything that we